Well, hello everybody, it's Dan from dansfish.com. I'm your friendly fishmonger, and another day, so it's time to profile another fish species. Today it's going to be a cute little killifish from Sri Lanka and southern India. It's called Aplocheilus blockii, at least I think it is, Blockii, which, blockii? I'm not quite sure. I think it's blockii. And either way, it's a beautiful little killifish. It's a surface dweller. It looks a lot in body shape like an Aplocheilus dei or an Aplocheilus lineatus, but it's diminutive. It's really small. So they top out at 1.5 1.75 inches, these little killifish. They're not seen very much. They're a wonderful little fish. They're easy to keep. They're easy to breed. They're hardy. And yeah, let's take a look at them. I'll tell you more about them. All right, here they are, Aplocheilus blockii. As you can see, they are ravenous little critters. These guys are pretty small. They never get quite 2 inches. Maybe 1.75 inches is the biggest, and the average one is probably 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Now, they are a surface-dwelling fish. Right now, they're down at the bottom eating a chunk of rapashi. They're pretty adaptable. They'll come down and eat. They'll stay in the middle and the top of the aquarium, mostly the top, but they will come down to eat. So just keep that in mind. But in nature, they're more of a top-dwelling fish. They like to hide under leaves, floating vegetation, or overhanging vegetation. They kind of hang out there and wait for insects that they can eat. And one of the best things to do with these guys, I don't have a video of this, but the tank I have them in is coated with water sprite. There's a bunch of water sprite floating at the top of the tank. And when I feed these guys fruit flies, the fruit flies get up and hang out on that water sprite. And these little guys are so fun to watch as they hunt the fruit flies. They'll kind of cruise around, they'll pop their head up on top of a leaf, look for a fruit fly, and when they find one, they'll jump out of the water and grab it. So they're a fun little fish to feed. And they'll eat anything. Obviously, right now they're eating sigel food. They'll eat live food. They'll eat frozen food. They'll eat flakes. They'll eat pellets. All kinds of stuff. So great little fish, easy to keep, easy to breed. I think they're beautiful. They have this bright gold iridescence on them. Some of it's coming through on camera, but that is a color that's hard to pick up on video or in pictures. But at times you can start to see it. But this kind of brilliant metallic gold iridescence, and then something that we're not picking up on camera are these rows of small red dots that lay in between these rows of gold iridescence on the males, and they're really pretty. This is an excellent community fish. As long as it doesn't fit in their mouth, they're not going to bother it, and since they're small, they can be in a pretty small tank. They do need some kind of surface cover, some kind of floating plants or floating mops or something, preferably that kind of coats over the top of the surface so they can hang out under it. If you give them some of that, and it doesn't have to be the entire aquarium, it can be just a section of the aquarium, but if they have that, they'll feel secure, and then they'll go explore the rest of the aquarium. If they don't have that, then they'll kind of hang out in the corners and on the sides of the tank, up at the top mostly, and they'll be pretty insecure, and they won't get good behavior. They'll look stressed out, and you know, eventually it's going to take a toll on their health. A lot of times if you go into a big box store and you see how they keep golden wonder killifish, which are Aplocheilus lineatus, a morph of that species, which is related to this fish, but a lot bigger. Anyway, if you see the golden wonder killies in the big box stores, you'll often see them in aquariums that don't have surface cover, and they're kind of stressed out often. They don't look good, and they're not you know, they're not swimming around. They're just kind of hunkered over in a corner. That's what'll happen if you don't give the Aplocheilus killifiches, any of the fishes in that genus, surface cover. Because in nature, that's what they do. They hang out under those floating plants or overhanging parts, like trees and stuff that hang over the edge of the stream. They hang out under that for cover, and then they hunt at the surface. So give them that. And if you do, they'll be bold, they'll be beautiful. They aren't necessarily a highly social fish by any means, but they do cue off each other. So if you have a group of them, they're more likely to come out and be active like these ones are right now in the video. Breeding these guys is very easy. You can do it lots of ways. They lay their eggs on plants or spawning mops, and you can collect the eggs and hatch them in a separate container. To see how I do that, I do it the same as I do the Wapoga red laser rainbow fish. You can check that video out to see how I incubate the eggs. Same way as I do the American flagfish. You can check that video out, how I incubate the eggs. I do the same thing with these. And they're pretty small eggs, but the babies are big enough that when they hatch, they can totally eat baby brine shrimp. Newly hatched baby brine shrimp are not a problem for them. If you look at the internet, you'll see a lot of reports that they need infusoria or tiny little foods to start. That's not my experience. They're big enough when they hatch that they can take baby brine shrimp. So that's a big step towards being able to raise the babies, because baby brine shrimp is easy to hatch, it's highly nutritious, and once you get them on that, they're going to be just fine, most species, including these. So they're in here with a couple cories, doing great. Again, a group is a little better. And one thing about this species and all killifish, really, please remember this, all killifish, is that they can jump, and they can jump expertly. I've had them in 10-gallon aquariums with 2 inches of water, and I've had killifish jump out of that. So they jumped, I don't know, 10 inches up and over and out of the tank. I've had aquariums where I thought that they would be fine, but there was a tiny little hole in the lid for a, I don't know, a little airline or something like that. And I've had killifish jump out of those too. So please take me at my word when I tell you that these guys will totally jump. And keep them in a covered aquarium. You'll be a lot happier if you do that. Males and females, they're pretty easy to tell apart. The males have an extended anal fin and have brighter colors, and the females are the same body shape and things, but they don't have as much of an extension on the fins, and they tend to be a little more brown in color, a little less iridescent, a little less gold. But they're almost the same size. Females may be a little bit smaller. As far as temperature goes on these guys, I keep mine in the mid-70s. I've never kept them at a different temperature. The highest they've been for me is maybe 80 degrees, the lowest 73 degrees. So that's all I know. They might be able to take a wider fluctuation, and they probably can if they're from southern India and Sri Lanka. They can probably take some higher temperatures. But I've only ever kept them kind of in the mid-70s, and they do great. Something about these guys is that in nature they're found in both freshwater and brackish water. I've only ever kept them in freshwater. My water is very soft. I've also kept them in very hard water in Los Angeles when I lived there. Super hard water, and they did great. The tank is a basic setup, just a couple yarn mops, a sponge filter, a box filter, and there's the water sprite that is floating on the top. And since this video was taken, that's expanded. It now covers almost the entire top of the aquarium, and they love it. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? There was something, and now I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Anyway, they do well in all types of water. They're very adaptive, hardy little fish, and they eat anything. So there you have it. Aplocheilus blockii. Beautiful little killifish. Easy to keep. Like to dwell at the surface, but they'll go all over, and they're super peaceful. They're not going to harm any fish that doesn't fit in their mouth. If they do fit in their mouth, they're gone. But besides that, they'll be fine with almost anything. So they're great for a nano tank. They're assertive enough that they won't get out-competed too badly once they settle in anyway. So they can go with most other fish that are of an appropriate size. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have comments or questions or whatever, please post them down below. I'm happy to respond. We can get a dialogue going. Anyway, that's it. Until next time, have a great day.